you know, the values are a little bit skewered, but there's things about them that are striking. Well, I think everything about the show for 8 o'clock was really incredible, and I think that when I think back, you know, to the time, to other television around us, I see the beginnings of, you know, Cheers debuted the year that Square Pegs did, obviously to far greater success. But everything about the show, I think, was amazing because, number one, as you've said, two 16-year-old girls who were so verbal and so articulate and so intellectually curious about the world and so candid and odd, and you know, weren't really blessed with the standards of beauty that at that time on television were really what people were longing to see and expecting to see and were encouraged to see and like. But I think the nature of the show itself, everything about it was just bold, you know, from the title song to, you know, the guest actors, to the way the kids spoke to each other, to the archetypes that Anne purposefully created and was very brave about. They weren't always likable, they weren't always good, decent people, they were superficial and self-centered, they were ridiculous, they were stupid on occasion, they were made fun of. Nobody else had done that with young people, and really I think if you look at the adolescents after that, you saw a lot of watered down versions of that, and that's not bad, it's not really a judgment, it's just what happened. And I thought at the time when I started seeing other television shows that were about smart kids, bright kids, I thought, wow, you know, if it weren't for Anne, I don't think that show would have been on the air. Even Head of the Class, you know, which kind of dipped into that same well. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, that's the nature of our culture and television and movies. It was groundbreaking, definitely, and I think also it was completely resolved about itself. It was what it was. It obviously wasn't going to change to suit the network's desires. Anne wasn't going to change. You know, everybody around her, the creative staff, really believed in what they were doing, and the show speaks of that. It was really great to get to do, and just to show that real despondent teenage person being really just filled with despair and loneliness, to show what that's really like, and to talk about really not having a good relationship with a parent that disappoints you. You know, that's very truthful and very painful, and I don't know where that comes from in Anne's life, but or Janice or any of the people around her that were really great writers, and just thought it was great. It's funny because I guess the show Claire Danes did, but I can't remember what's it called, My So-Called Life. I'm realizing now, like, a smart girl who's thoughtful was good. It's good. Oh, Devo? I remember so well shooting those scenes for Muffy's bat mitzvah. Yeah, I remember very well. I couldn't believe it. My brother couldn't believe it. It wasn't really music that I ever really loved, but I because I listened especially to K-Rock all the time, and yeah, oh my God, Richard Blade! I couldn't believe it when he was on the show, and we listened to him in the morning driving to work, and it was amazing. And the waitresses singing our title song is crazy. But I felt very attached to people on that show, which is my nature. I think we all did. We were very young, and I think everything about the experience was so unusual that it felt like it hadn't been appreciated, and so it was personal, I think, to a lot of us. I remember being cast in Footloose, and finding out for sure that it wasn't going to be picked up, and I remember the director Herb Ross said, you know, that's a blessing, and I was so stunned because, you know, it wasn't his personal experience, and he was thinking, now, you know, now you're not tied to a television series for the next, at that time it was a 7-year contract. And to me, I could, you know, intellectually, I guess, understand his point was that, you know, you can do lots of different things and your time is more your own. But for me, it was sad because I knew the show was special. And I'll just finish by saying this one thing. You know, my parents had been very anti-television. They didn't like television. You know, I came of age in their era, you know, jiggle television, you know, that was really so deeply offensive to my mother. And you know, it was either women in really tight, you know, clothes and a lot of kind of basic vulgarity, or it was, you know, archaic notions of women and role models that were really based in the 50s. And so television was like this forbidden fruit in our house, and we were only allowed to watch PBS and the Olympics. And so when I had in the past been offered a television series, my family would not let me do it. They forbid me to move to Los Angeles. They said I'd be ruined in Los Angeles, and I would give up everything that was meaningful, and I would, you know, become a horrible person, and my values would be all screwed up. Not religious values, because they weren't, but just your basic moral compass. And square pegs was the exception to the pretty, you know, hard, fast rule. And so when the show was canceled, I thought it was unfortunate for a number of reasons. First, because I think it was a great loss for Anne, and I felt that personally for Anne. And also, I think because I knew that it was unique and special, and that it was a loss for television, and it had been so well received critically, and you know, it changed the way children, young adults, adolescents spoke. And I think a fresh voice is always important. A point of view that is different should have value, and I'm sorry it didn't.